What's up, everybody? This is Maury from the Performance Lab. Today we actually have CrossFit Encino owner Eric Amzalog on.
What's up, guys?
So I always go to breakfast with Eric, and has a very, very successful CrossFit business. And one of the reasons why is because it's very big focus on corrective exercises and making sure athletes stay healthy, which is obviously a big thing that we're trying to do as well. And we were talking today, and we came up with a great conversation. It all kind of started with he was asking me, because we do all this science stuff and have all the biomechanics, how can we get more force or get better information out of the FMS, as athletes are starting to get very, very good at the FMS, and he wants to understand how to get kind of that next level knowledge, which then kind of went into a conversation about corrective exercise and a lot of the habits that we're seeing with corrective exercise. And I guess the big thing that what I was talking about is that, if I gave somebody 3 corrective exercises, let's say, they would want to start much more with a shoulder type of a corrective exercise or a hip type of corrective exercise rather than something in the core, which it could be much more important. And I think Eric saw some of the same stuff, and I mean, you can kind of go off that.
I was going to say the same thing. What we notice is we will run clients through an assessment for the purpose of assigning them correctives. And let's say we identify 3 areas that they need work on, and we tell them verbally the priority should be on this one area. And typically it's diaphragm or the intrinsic core. What we'll notice is people will gravitate towards the extremity exercises and then actually progress or modify in a more challenging way their core exercises, when in actuality they're not actually prepared to modify that to a more aggressive exercise. And there's a reason we prescribed maybe a regressed exercise. They're not actually prepared to modify that to a more aggressive exercise, and there's a reason we prescribed maybe a regressed exercise. And that was the challenge. And we were talking about how can we, why is that happening? And then how can we help reprioritize or re-educate the importance, the vital importance of doing regressed exercise for the trunk or the core. And so that's kind of where we arrived at this morning.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted to share with you guys. And one, I think the big fundamental problem with this is that if I'm an athlete and I'm getting these exercises to do, and understandably so, we were both in athletic positions, we want certain goals to be achieved. So if you're going to give me something for my hips and I'm trying to get a better squat, but you give me something for my diaphragm, my hips, and maybe my thoracic spine, well, as an athlete, we inherently see that our goal is going to be achieved much faster of getting a higher squat by doing this hip exercise. So we prioritize that over something like the core, which is actually really a much more important.
It's more important, but more challenging to find. I think what we were talking about is it's more challenging to find a tangible, viewable, visible benefit out of it, right? The squat, you can do hip mobility or hip muscle activation on the hip drill, and you'll improve your squat by a certain amount of weight. But if we tell you to go do breathing drills or dead bug or a diaphragm related thing, how do you quantify the improvement, right? People thrive on quantifiable improvement.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, the challenge that we're running into. The truth is inescapable that the intrinsic core, the diaphragm, the TVA are by far among the most important things to train and have carryover to a huge range of movements, where doing just hip activation drills or just shoulder activation drills will only have carryover to a very specific and finite range of movements. And so we want to encourage people that by doing core things, by practicing their core correctives, the carryover will be much larger than they can feel or see, and that's
that's very important. And then another thing too, to go off of that, and especially a very, very big thing for all I think CrossFit coaches or trainers or even people that are in the community there, is I think everybody is kind of motivated away from pain. And I think a lot of the things that cause pain start with issues that happen on the core or in the core, and also injuries. So there's a lot of problems in whether it's a ACL tear as a soccer player, or chronic back pain as a CrossFitter, or even chronic shoulder pain as a throwing athlete or as a CrossFit athlete. A lot of those problems are starting from the spine and are going outwards, and so we can again, the big priority is going to be on fixing that core. Yeah, there probably is some issues as a quarterback that you could do for your shoulder, or as a CrossFitter that you could do with your shoulder because you're feeling all that anterior tightness of the shoulder. But that is just a
it's a symptom
it's a
of
symptom,
the
exactly.
underlying problem, and what we're trying to identify is where is the root problem, like where's
Yeah.
the systemic part of the problem. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably come out with some videos or talk more in the next few days or weeks, and maybe come up with some drills and movements and ways to quantify this